Our Media Madness segment tonight, a shocking photograph of then-Senator Barack Obama with known hate leader and anti-Semite Louis Farrakhan was hidden for 13 years. But the photo wasn't hidden by just Obama himself. It was kept private by a journalist who said that he hid the photo on purpose in order to protect Obama's political future. And the left wonders why we say the mainstream media is corrupt and biased. Imagine if this photo had been Donald Trump hugging white supremacist David Duke. Imagine the reaction to that. And then ask yourself, why isn't the reaction the same to this photo of Obama and Louis Farrakhan? With me now from the Daily Caller, Sagar Enjeti. Sagar, thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me, Liz.
Sagar, this is quite unbelievable to me. This journalist, his name is Askia Mohammed, this is his quote from when he released this picture. He said, after the nomination was secured and all the way up until the inauguration, then for 8 years after he was president, it, meaning the picture, was kept undercover. It absolutely would have made a difference. Sagar, that's my question. Would this photo, had it been released when it was taken, would this have made a difference?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it would have absolutely been used by the Clinton campaign in 2007 and the 2008 primary. It would have been used by Senator John McCain. But more troublingly, it goes to show what many conservatives said existed throughout the entire Obama 2008, 2012, and presidency, which was that the press corps was clearly in the tank for Obama. As you exactly said, Liz, imagine if this picture had been with President Trump and David Duke from 15 years ago. It would cause an absolute uproar. Instead, it's being shrugged off. People are calling it, the work of conspiracy theorists, and are saying that conservatives are losing their mind over a man who is already out of office. But the whole point is that it illustrates many of the reasons why President Trump is president today, is because much of the mainstream media refuses to acknowledge much of President Obama's very troubling history, of alliance or at least association with people like Louis Farrakhan, with there's still the unreleased audio of President Obama's talk with Rashid Khalidi, in which he has allegedly made some extremely anti-Israel statements, or at least very, problematic at best. And, like we said, these are given absolutely no attention whatsoever. People are accused of being Islamophobic, even though the fact that, the former president is, of course, not Muslim. It simply just demonstrates a very troubling pattern of anti-Israel bias, of poor judgment of Barack Obama.
Right, and it's absolutely shocking. I mean, this is almost a new low, I think, for the media to cover this up. I mean, Louis Farrakhan is a horrible person. This is a man who suggested that September 11th, 2001 terror attacks were an inside job waged by the United States government, and then he blamed it on Jews. He is a black nationalist. He hates white people. He called white people white devils. He's advocated for beheading gay people. I mean, this man is a despicable individual. This photograph, Sagar, was taken in 2005, like I said, at the Congressional Black Caucus meeting. And my question, I don't know why more people aren't asking this question, but why was Louis Farrakhan, a black nationalist anti-Semite, what was he doing at a Congressional Black Caucus meeting in the first place?
That's another great question. And what's even better is that the CBC reached out to him to go get the photo immediately after it was taken to this so-called journalist, because they knew it was problematic. I would love to know why they were meeting with Mr. Farrakhan in the first place, a known hate leader. I mean, just imagine if somebody in the House GOP, some GOP caucus, an anti-immigrant caucus, met with somebody like David Duke. There would be an absolute media firestorm, even if it was 15 years ago. Again and again and again, Obama gets a pass from the mainstream media. Nobody is asking questions other than you and I right here about why this meeting was taking place in the first, why this was even taken in the first place. And what's even more troubling is that when the media was confronted with this photo, is that they came out and they started playing videos of Obama disavowing Mr. Farrakhan's support in 2008. Well, I'm, old enough to remember just less than a year ago when the president disavowed David Duke and, any other white supremacist organizations, and it was called disingenuous. Well, maybe some of us here should be saying, this this disavowal is pretty disingenuous because he looks quite happy to be with Mr. Farrakhan in that photo from 2005.
Right, and let's not forget, when President Obama did disavow Louis Farrakhan, it was only because of pressure from Hillary Clinton, and he didn't even fully disavow and condemn it first. He just distanced himself until Hillary Clinton put more pressure on him. So another point to be made here, the Southern Poverty Law Center, we've talked about them quite a bit on this show because they used to be a group that identifies hate groups in our country, and they've devolved into essentially an organization that targets conservative or Christian groups, and they neglect to label many radical Islamic groups or radical Islamic clerics as hate individuals or hate groups. Even the Southern Poverty Law Center has labeled Louis Farrakhan as a hateful individual, as spewing hate speech. Even the Southern Poverty Law Center, yet Barack Obama takes a picture with him, smiling, very friendly. The Congressional Black Caucus invited him to a meeting in the first place. Then they ask a journalist to keep this under wraps. They asked the media to do their bidding when theoretically this should have been a great scoop for any journalist, getting information that could have impacted the election. Every journalist's dream here. It's absolutely shocking. Saagar, before we go, I do want to ask you about this too. I know that you have been newly promoted to being the chief White House correspondent for the Daily Caller, so I want to ask you about this. The New York Times released an article claiming that President Trump gave a directive to fire special counsel Robert Mueller back in June of 2016. After this directive, the New York Times says that the White House counsel, Don McGahn, threatened to quit over this, because of that, Trump changed his mind. I want to ask you, if this is true, Trump's denying this, but if it's true one way or the other, what does this mean?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's something I've been thinking a lot about. And I think that the most accurate interpretation of this, beyond, everyone is calling him a tyrant for something that he didn't do. As last time I checked, tyrants actually do outrageous things and do violate the law. But the most accurate interpretation of this is that the staffing system in the White House worked. Is that Don McGahn, chief counsel, White House counsel, looked at the president and said, "This is a disastrous idea. I will quit if you make me go through with this." The president reconsidered, and he said, "Okay, let's move on with it." And since then, there hasn't been any real talk of this. The New York Times, the reporters themselves are saying that this was 7 months ago. And now we're at a situation where the special counsel has charged the president's former campaign manager, has accepted a plea agreement with the former national security advisor of the United States. Aren't those things that you would think that would trigger even more talks or leaks of the president considering firing him? I haven't seen anything. This is the first indication that he ever considered doing it. It seemed like it was an ill-considered private conversation at the time. He did not follow through with the action. So does it deserve the media firestorm that there is today? I don't think so.
No, it seems to me that it's a damned if he did, damned if he didn't type of situation. I mean, right. I think it would have been stupid for him to give a directive like that, but he didn't do it. He considered it, he decided it was a bad idea, and he didn't do it. Shouldn't the media be giving him kudos for doing that if they believe that was the right decision? Right. It's just another example. You cannot win. President Trump cannot win with this media, the same media that covered up a photograph of President Obama with a hate leader. Funny how that works out. Saagar, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it.